Okay, I think most of our guests are already in. So thank you very much again for joining us this afternoon on this Thursday, where we are here to learn more about why hybrid is here to stay and what types of lessons we are learning and what this means for HR. So once again, this is a joint webinar by Just Login, HRMS, as well as Microsoft Teams. So just before we start, I guess I just wanted to give a background. So my name is Russell. I'm the marketing manager here at Just Login. So Just Login is a HRMS, and we've recently launched an integration with Microsoft Teams, which is why we wanted to host this webinar to give some knowledge on why hybrid is here to stay and what types of tools you can use to manage your workforce moving forward. So in the past couple of years, hybrid has become more of a mainstream feature of companies and teams from here on. So it's no longer an afterthought for teams as well. So it's something that's here to stay, and that's why we're here to find out what can we do to manage such a new working relationship, working arrangements, and what are the best practices moving forward as well. So without further ado, we'll welcome our very first speaker, who is Raj Singh. He's actually the APEC GTM lead for Viva and Teams platform. So he'll be talking about the future of work. So I'll hand the floor over to you, Raj.
Thank you for that, Russell. Just a quick check. You can see me and you can hear me, right? Are we?
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right, so first of all, thank you so much for taking out the time today to listen in on what the future of work looks like and how you can achieve the highest productivity and well-being through Microsoft Teams and Just Login. So what I'll be spending a lot of time on is to how to think about hybrid work in the context of what our reality is today as compared to what it was 2 years back. Next slide, please. So Microsoft has invested a lot in doing something called the Work Trend Index. So it's a body of work where we combine the different Microsoft productivity signals we get from around 30,000 plus customers. We layer it with the surveys that we have run with our customers, plus the industry experts across the board, across HR, marketing, and senior leadership, to come up with a concise way of understanding what are the different trends that we are seeing in terms of hybrid work and employee experience. So with that, next slide, please. As much as I would love to show you the 2022 version, 2021 was the first time that we did this report. And in this research study, we saw one of the biggest things emerging as what we call the hybrid work paradox. The reason why we call this the hybrid work paradox is because we saw that 73% of employees wanted flexible remote work options to stay. But we are humans. So 67% of employees wanted more in-person work or collaboration post the pandemic. And I think it's summed up so well in what we realized after the pandemic. We are still going through the later stages of it, and different countries are going through different stages of going back to the office. But what we realized is that the people who were coming back to the office after the pandemic were not the same people who were there before the pandemic. Our lives changed, our priorities changed. The way we look at what a good employer is completely changed. It has happened in all of our lives. How many of us have an office table at home now? How many of us have invested in one external monitor, an external keyboard, and a mouse? We didn't do this before. Most of us didn't. So lives have completely changed as a function of what we have experienced as the collective during this pandemic times. So next slide, please. In 2022, what we saw was the re-emergence of these trends, but with a lot more detail, because at this time, countries were either going in and out of the pandemic. And that's where the first thing that we saw emerging as a trend is that employees have a new worth it equation. So we saw that in APAC, 57% of employees said that they're more likely to prioritize health and well-being over work before the pandemic. So if you're an employer today, you need to make sure that you are attractive to these employees in terms of having your focus on mental health, physical health, what kind of insurance benefits, and how much care do you show to your employees. And that leads to the second small insight within this. that 55% of millennials and Gen Z in APAC are considering an employer change in the year ahead. We saw this during the Great Reshuffle, or what some people call the Great Resignation. We are seeing this trend emerging. People are trying to realign their priorities in terms of what is a great place to work. And last but not the least, we saw 19% of people in APAC left their jobs in the last year. So that's the challenge to employers today, to make that new worth it equation and to make that equation resonate with their current employees and the prospective talent that rise out there in the industry. Next slide, please. Rebuilding social capital. I mentioned we are humans at the end of the day. We need social interactions to stay positive, to stay alive. Whether you're so introvert or an extrovert, you're still looking to build social capital. Now, the reality is we will not replace building of social capital. It will get changed. And there's a distinction between both of them. So if you look at the situation that we have now is that 61% of hybrid workers are likely to go fully remote in the year ahead. And that's going to be challenging because how do you make sure that you are maintaining a pulse at that part of the organization, hoping that they're not creating silos? How do you ensure that's not happening? That's the challenge to employers today. 43% of leaders say that relationship building is the greatest challenge in hybrid and remote. And I've seen this. I've seen various sales leaders say this. I haven't seen my sales team in 2 years. I don't know what's happening. I know I have tools that have give me access, but that's where we need to be innovative. We need to be innovative in terms of how we use technology and combine that with human behavior to create social relationships in a hybrid workforce. Last but not the least, we see that 69% of leaders are concerned that employees are not getting enough support to be successful during hybrid or remote work. So this kind of support could either be, it could be in terms of benefits, it could be in terms of physical support, of physical or mental support, it could be in terms of feeling connected. Think about this. If you're somebody who joined during the pandemic, how well do you feel integrated within that organization? And that's going to be shown in that next slide that we go for. Next slide, please. So this is one thing. This is a personal favorite of mine. Flexible work doesn't mean always on. Just because I'm working from home doesn't mean that I would like to reply to messages at 1 p.m., 11 p.m. I think all of us have experienced, especially the moment we shifted to remote and now when we are going to hybrid. The challenges remain the same. And to quantify how big of a challenge this became is that we saw a 250% increase in average weekly meeting time on Teams users since March 2020, a 27% increase in chats since March 2020 at the same time. Now, what do you do with this insight, right? How do you make sure that people know that it doesn't mean always on? So if you can press the next slide button, there's something that'll show up on the right side of the screen. So there's some things that we can do at an individual level. There's some things we can do at a manager level, and there are things that we can do at a leadership level. And these are the three key personas that are critical to making hybrid work work. So as an example, you can see my email signature over there. So we at Microsoft believe in flexible work policies, and we've always believed in this even before the pandemic. So there's a thin line below this which says my work hours may not be your work hours. Please do not feel obligated to respond immediately. Now, this if this goes into your email, it's a very slight change, but it makes the other person feel a lot calmer. But even if you're sending that email at 10 p.m., you shouldn't. But if you are, that person has a sense of flexibility in terms of how that person handles this in the realm of hybrid work. Next slide, please. Fourth one. So leaders need to make the office worth the commute. And again, today I'm talking to you from the office. Generally, I prefer doing webinars from home because I have a whole setup set up. But I had a conference to come to. Hence, it was worth the commute for me to come to office. Everyone's worth it equation on which day to come to office and why to come to office is different. As organizational leaders, we need to understand what that is and create clarity around this. We see this in terms of the numbers. 41% of hybrid workers say They don't know when to work remotely and when to work in person. And you see this have a bigger impact in countries where the commute is generally shorter versus longer. So in Singapore, in general, given the public transport system, roughly 15 to 20 minutes gets you around town. So that number is 38% for Singapore. Philippines and Thailand, where we've seen that the average commute times are actually higher. Hence, there's a lot more effort that's spent by an average individual there. We see those numbers are much higher than Singapore. The other thing that we have encouraged organizations to do, and we work with organizations across the globe on creating something called team agreements. So we don't impose this. The way we position this is, let's say your manager says we will decide to meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays as much as possible. We try to do as much of our meetings in person on a specific day. That's called a team agreement. We have that across Microsoft, and that's something we share with organizations as well. Last but not the least, 60% of workers in APAC are considering a switch to hybrid or remote in the coming year. So this is not something that's new. We know this is happening. It's about how well we are prepared and how technology can also enable us in making sure when we move to hybrid, everyone is set up for success. Next slide, please. Last but not the least, if you're a manager and you're on this call, you know this more than anyone. You feel wedged between leadership and employee expectation. Managers play the biggest role when it comes to hybrid work because you are the network. You're the layer of communication with the leaders and the individual contributors. So we see, and we want to make sure that managers have the right ability, are equipped with the right capabilities to make hybrid work. So we see that in APAC, 58% of leaders are planning to require employees to be in office full time in the next year. If you're a manager, it's really up to you now to land this with your team members. A few of your team members might not like it. A few of them might even think about changing the employer, like they said on a couple of slides back. So how do you manage that conversation, right? That's something we want to make sure we're equipping our people managers with. Then also we see that 57% of managers say that leadership is out of touch with employees. So they have to translate what the employee expectations are and present that to leaders, which leads to business outcomes. So it's not an easy job. And this is where our employee experience platform and organizational transformation strategies can help you with this conversation as well. Last but not the least, 62% of leaders in APAC fear that productivity has been negatively impacted since a shift to remote or hybrid work. Interestingly enough, when we ran this survey with individuals, they feel more productive with remote and hybrid work. So you can see there's a disparity in terms of perceptions, and that's the perception bridge that we need to build as organizations today. So with that, I hope I was able to set the context on what the challenges of hybrid work are. But more importantly, and to more positive things, I'll pass the floor to Deep to walk through the possible solutions to these problems and how the story comes together with Microsoft Teams and Just Login. So with that, I'll pass the floor to Deep.
Thank you, Raj. Am I audible?
This slide, in interest of time, you can.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
Cool. First of all, thanks everyone for joining, for giving your time. I'm Deep, and I'm the product manager for Microsoft Teams ISV ecosystem. I would like to talk about today that how Microsoft Teams is playing a fundamental role in enabling hybrid work through the power of collaborative apps. Next slide, please. So Microsoft Teams is today at the center of modern work and is enabling employees to be productive in a hybrid work setting through the power of collaborative apps, right? So we envision a future where users can perform all their tasks and workflows all inside Microsoft Teams without having to switch different windows and different context. As you can see, the quote by our CEO, Satya, who says that Teams is on its way to become a digital significant platform to enable the hybrid work. So first, let's try to understand that what are the challenges with hybrid work as such. Next slide, please. So if you look at the collaboration in a hybrid world. So what are the key challenges here, right? So we do know that uh, teams today are getting, separated by boundaries, not only geographically, but being inside the same geography. There are teams who are like, set up in a hybrid paradigm where some people are working from home, some people are working from office, etc. So here we have people working across diverse time zones. They have multiple devices. They work as per their flexibility of timings, which was not there prior to the pandemic. And the collaboration and communication is the key to enabling productivity in such a work setting, right? And we'll see how Microsoft Teams is enabling and addressing these challenges through collaborative apps on Teams. So can we move to the next slide, please? So when it comes to collaboration, there are two things essentially. One is what do we call as synchronous collaboration, and one what we call as asynchronous collaboration. Asynchronous collaboration is when people are not collaborating at the same time. There is an offline exchange of information or workflows, and there is a handover to and fro which happens over a period of time, right? So this could be your like chats, channels, group chats, etc. And then there's synchronous collaboration, right? Which is essentially people come together. They could meet physically or use Teams meeting, to represent a hybrid work setting. And we'll see how collaborative apps play a fundamental role to kind of allow user to collaborate seamlessly, both asynchronously and synchronously. Can we move to the next slide, please? So we see Microsoft Teams as the hub of teamwork. There are four fundamental pillars to it. There are chats, there are meetings, the collaboration with the power of application, and then there are business processes and workflows. Chats and meetings are very native to Microsoft Teams. We all know that Microsoft Teams can be used to have structured discussion, chat messages, etc. with our colleagues. We can have meetings with our colleagues, webinars, etc. And then comes the collaboration with the power of application. You can access both first-party applications developed by Microsoft or third-party applications developed by our partners, like Just Login, all inside Microsoft Teams. This is where all the information from third-party application can be accessed right inside Teams, where user can consume it and collaborate with each other to actually work on that information. Not only the information, Microsoft Teams also enables user to initiate business processes and workflows using third-party application all inside the canvas of Microsoft Teams. Can we move on to the next slide, please? I'm not going to go into details of all of this constructs and capabilities, but this is a snapshot of the wide array of features that is enabled by Microsoft Teams to for third-party apps to actually surface content across different collaborative surfaces. It could be Teams, it could be channels, it could be meetings, it could be group chats, it could be one-to-one chats, right? So yeah, let's move to the next slide, please. I want to stress upon a bit on the sort of collaborative scenarios that users can do on Microsoft Teams. Obviously, it starts with initiating workflows. The users can initiate a lot of workflows from inside third-party application inside Microsoft Teams. They can also share workflows, which means if there are multiple stakeholders involved in a workflow, they can actually share it among themselves in a chat or a channel post to actually work on it together. They can create artifacts on a third-party application inside Microsoft Teams. They can be notified to take an action, or they can be informed of an action all seamlessly inside Microsoft Teams. So going into from here, I would hand it over to Venkat to give you a deep insight on how just login works seamlessly inside Microsoft Teams. Thank you.
All right. Hi, all. Thanks for joining us. So my name is Venkat. I'm heading the engineering and CX divisions in Just Login. So on the first segment of this webinar, right, we've seen all the statistics and we've noticed that hybrid is here to stay and more employees prefer working hybrid and more companies are adopting it. And on the second segment from Deep, we did see all the capabilities of Microsoft Teams and how it has helped companies and employees, collaborate together and then elevate the performance of a hybrid team. So how does all of this relate to us in Just Login? And even further, how does it matter to you who have joined the webinar, right? That's what I'm going to cover now. So if you go on to the next slide, right, I'm going to introduce Just Login in a few minutes to everyone. If you've not already heard about us, Just Login is a cloud-based HR management system that is built for hybrid work. So we are built from the ground up on the cloud. Okay, what that means is we are not just utilizing cloud infrastructure, but we are also using the cloud's managed services, which helps us provide more efficient and quality products to our customers. And whenever we talk about the cloud, I know the conversation about security comes into mind, and which is why I'm stressing here in the fact that Just Login is an ISO 27001 certified company. Sorry about that. Yeah. So what that means to you is that our data management processes and procedures actually meet the international standards for information management. So that's what this means. And because of this, right, you will be able to access our system anywhere at any time. Okay, so now going on to the next slide, right? These are the capabilities that we actually offer. We do offer payroll processing system, leave processing, attendance, expense, benefits, people module, and a lot more. Actually, there are much more minor features that are available in the system, which are not highlighted here. And at the same time, we are adding on more features into the system so that you and your team can actually use our system on the hybrid work style. Okay, so with all of this, right, if you move on to the next slide, as a HR leader or a HR team manager, what does this mean to you? You would have geo-agnostic access to all the information and features available in the system. Doesn't matter where you are, right? You could actually run your pay run for the month from the comfort of your home. You could access the timesheets of your employees from a cafe, for example, or even you can come back to work and our system would detect that you're back to work and then mark the attendance for you. So that's what it means. It is geo-agnostically accessible and it is fully integrated. And what I mean by that is that all the modules or the components that I've discussed about on the previous slide, they all talk to each other. And for example, right, if an employee is on leave, the roster that you plan already knows that the employee is on leave. And if an employee has worked overtime, right, your payroll system in our HRMS would know that the employee has worked overtime and we will need to pay the employee for that. So it's a fully integrated suite of HRMS. And because of all this, right, you will be freeing up a lot of your valuable time and you will be able to focus on elsewhere in other creative and, employee satisfaction increasing perspectives. Okay, so it is not just for you. If you go on to the next slide, right, we can notice that besides the HR team and the HR leadership members, adopting such HRMS systems, right, actually elevates the experience for the employees in your organization too. Okay, we do have our own mobile app for iOS and Android. So your employees can even have all the capabilities from the fingertip on their phone. They can apply for leave. They can, clock in, clock out. Doesn't matter even if they are working from home, they can still clock in and clock out. And then, they can register their work for the day and so on. So that is the level of capabilities that we offer. And this is available right now itself. Then going on to the next slide, right? If you're already having all these capabilities to support hybrid work, what else could we do to make your life easier? Right? That's a question we've been having internally. And to answer that question, right, let's go to the next slide where I would digress a little bit to a different topic and then bring you back. So here, right, ever since COVID-19 accelerated digital adoption and digital literacy, right, there's a lot more tools, softwares, and apps being created, being developed every day. Okay, doesn't matter for personal work or doesn't matter for workplace usage. There are a lot more apps and a lot more people are using those apps. This gives us a second degree problem whereby, the context switching and the app switching, right, actually kills productivity. There are multiple surveys out there, multiple research papers, and even white papers that evidently state that context switching and app switching kills your productivity. There are a lot of overheads the human brain needs to take to do this, and every time there's actually a switch. And besides that, there's also the noise and distraction. You would go to an app to do something, and then you would notice a few other tabs open there, something else pops up, and you would be doing something else eventually instead of doing what you went there to do. So this being the case, right, Just Login being one of the SaaS tools that your organization might use, we actually started looking at how not to add to this distraction, not to add to this noise, and how to elevate your experience. So that is where, let's go to the next slide. That is where Just Login, who has the know-hows of human resource management, and we actually collaborated with Microsoft Team, who's actually a pioneer in connectivity and also like what Deep has mentioned in terms of collaborative apps. So we partnered together to give you a different experience for Just Login. So going to the next slide, right? We are introducing the Just Login app for Microsoft Teams. You all might already know that Teams platform has a lot of apps built into it, and we are proudly introducing Just Login to be also part of this marketplace so that you can download, install, and log into Just Login app from within the context of Teams without the need to go into a different browser or getting distracted along the way. Yeah. So going to the next slide, what can we do with it? So once you go into Microsoft Teams, right, you have the App Store there and you will be able to search for Just Login and then install it in a matter of seconds. Okay, once installed, right, you will see the icon on the left hand side bar as shown on the image over there, and you will be able to click on it and you can access everything that you used to be able to access on the browser for Just Login within Teams. Okay, in order to authenticate yourself, we've even removed the normal authentication mechanisms and introduced the single sign-on, which means you don't need to remember the username password anymore. This app would actually take in the O365 or the Microsoft Teams login session and then take that and log you into Just Login. So it's much more easier. And because of this, right, you can actually remain in the flow. The problem that I highlighted earlier regarding context switching and how it kills productivity, you can potentially avoid that here. For example, right, imagine some of your employees, message you on Teams to asking you to approve their leaves or approve their timesheets, right, or even approve your expenses, right? You can actually, within Teams, after seeing a message, you can go into the Just Login app and then do exactly what they asked you to do. So that's what it is. And in terms of the capabilities, you can do everything that you can do right now in Just Login from within Teams. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, explicitly stating some of the biggest capabilities that you can do, right, would be you can run the employee's payroll within the team's context. You can plan your roster. You can apply and approve leaves. You can configure your leaves. You can do all the other administrative activities that you used to do. So it's not just limited to this set right now. There's a lot more which you could do within Teams. Okay. Now, is this the end of what we are doing? No. So going on, right, this is just the beginning. There's a lot more we could do to reduce the noise that you would face by switching the context. So we have a strong roadmap ahead. And what this roadmap focuses on would be native integration into Teams. And that means there will be much more deeper level of integration to the level that you wouldn't even need to come into the Just Logins interface to do things. You will be able to use, for example, the Teams bots to issue commands right from your chat. So just an example, you can clock in and clock out from within the Teams chat window. Okay, you wouldn't even need to switch to Just Login. That's something we are working on. You also can get rich notifications eventually when we incorporate that. And what that means is when your employee applies for leave from Teams, you as the manager can actually get the notification from Teams saying that this employee has applied for leave, and you will be able to approve that leave also from the Teams context over there. And the last one is actually game changer. So this is the feature called meeting stage in Microsoft Teams. Okay, you might have used whiteboards before, whereby a few of you get into a call, and then there's a whiteboard that's been shared, and where each and every participant in the call can actually contribute to the whiteboard. You all can draw on the whiteboard. Similarly, imagine if you could work on a roster collaboratively. It's not one person sharing a roster and all the others seeing it. It's the team of HR members all coming in, all having access to the roster and all planning it actively. That's the collaborative level and capabilities of a meeting stage. So we have all of these exciting features lined up, but one step at a time. So I would strongly urge every one of you to go to Teams if you're using it in your organization. Search for Just Login if you are an existing Just Login customer, and you can try this out and give us some feedback. Yeah. So going on to the next slide, that's all we have for today. I will open up the floor for any questions.
Yep. So everyone, please feel free to use the Q&A tab or the chat function to let us know what are some of the burning questions that you have for our speakers today. So we have Deep Jyoti, who is still on the line with us, as well as Venkat. So they'll be able to answer your questions regarding hybrid work, with regard to Microsoft Teams, as well as just login and how all of this actually works together to make your life as HR professionals much better and much easier. So we'll give you guys some time to ask us your questions. Yep. So I think it's quite a quiet session for now, but maybe I'll just um, have a question for Venkat. So I do understand there are a lot of features in the pipeline, but uh, what's on the wish list? I mean, personally, as a user yourself, what would you hope that we can do on just logins for Teams, and it's something that you would like to implement in the coming months ahead? Yeah.
Thanks, Russell, for getting the ball rolling. So me being a user of Just Login also, right, and also Teams heavily, I think something that might help us in increasing efficiency would be, applying leaves and, approving leaves from within Teams. Because a lot of times I have to go to my email to check the leave applications or even the web browser. But if I can see the leaves that are being applied from within the Teams context, right? Because I always get notifications for Teams, and then if this is also one of it, right, it would allow me to easily, approve the leave and then see the balances. So that's something I personally would like to have, and I also have it in the roadmap for everyone to also enjoy. So eventually we'll have that coming in.
Great to hear that we are very user centric and we are definitely thinking of what are the functions that definitely add value to our customers. And we have a question from Ayuna. So for organizations that have other smaller satellite centers, will there be any foreseeable issues using just login? So Venkat, I believe this is for you.
Let me try to understand that. So for organizations that have other smaller satellite centers, it shouldn't be a problem if even if your organization have multiple entities under it, right, and even working on multiple location. We do have some customers who already fall under that category. There aren't any foreseeable issues, in using Just Login or adopting it. You could go ahead with that.
Yeah, great to hear. So I think just login is definitely very friendly towards organizations that have various sites and various even operations across countries work very well with just login as well. So I think we have a question from Shane. So how is MS Teams comparable to LARC? So I think Deep, you'll be well placed to answer this question.
Yep. Thanks, Russell. So uh, I see the question is more around like integration with documents, calendar scheduling, etc. So I've not personally tried Lurk, so can't comment on that. But what I can say is Microsoft Teams is by far the most efficient and the largest collaboration software, and it's a part of the overall M365 product suite, right, which includes other Office products like Word document, Outlook, etc. And the vision that we have is eventually the applications, like the data from applications, can be surfaced inside Teams. We are also getting started with Outlook, so the same, the same application data, leave applications, can be also surfaced on Outlook through adaptive card. So yes, net, I think Microsoft Teams also supports, like we have Microsoft Teams has its own calendar, which is well integrated with the Outlook calendar, and obviously the files, the O365 suite of like SharePoint, OneDrive, everything is a part of the O365 suite. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yep. So Shane, I hope that answers your question. So you do have a follow-up question for Just Login. So how effective is the payroll for local statutory contributions? So for CPF, for EIS, I think Venkat, you could answer this for us.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, payroll is one of our key strengths. We've been running payroll and complying to statutory regulations in Singapore for over a decade. So for Singapore, it's already statutory compliant, our software. And for Malaysia, the good news is that we are LHCN approved payroll provider. So we got this a couple of years ago, approved by LHCN in Malaysia. So the PCB calculations in Malaysia are also statutory compliant. And for all the other regulations also, we strongly work with the authorities. For example, SOXO, EIS, Zakat, and all these things also, we do collaborate with the authorities to come up with the logic behind the software. So yeah, so we are quite compliant, and every year, even if the regulations change, we make sure we amend our software to keep up with it. Okay, and there's another question there that asks what countries are currently being added. So at the moment, we support Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Myanmar. So we actively support 4 regions in terms of payroll, and we are adding, we are planning to add more, but as of now, this is what I can disclose. Yep. Thanks, Shane.
Thanks for the sharing, Venkat. So, like what Venkat mentioned, Just Login is really compatible with local statutory contributions, especially for Singapore and Malaysia. We are working on um, entering other countries as well. I believe we do have regulations for Hong Kong as well. So I think in terms of the benefits of Just Login, one of it is to kind of ease your mind about worrying about all these regulations, because it's natively built into the system, so you can rest assured that everything is done according to the law as well. So we do have a more general question from Fern about how to manage your employees' expectations. Some of them want to come to office once a week, some of them want remote, or some of them totally want the office arrangement. So maybe this is not too related to the tools, but I would like to hear a deep perspective on how does Microsoft actually enable such an arrangement, and how does it manage the expectations of everyone?
Yeah, I think there are 2 aspects to this question. One is when you talk about managing employers or employees' expectations in a hybrid work setting, right? One is the logistical part of it, which is more of desk spaces, meeting rooms. How do you manage, who is coming when, etc. And then there is the collaboration aspect of it, right? So how do you enable people to work on, sorry, in a hybrid work setting, right? So I think to tackle the first challenge, I think there are tools available, like which allow you to actually manage, uh, the attendance, the desk booking, etc. A lot of the apps are also available on Microsoft Teams today to manage the same. The second part is where I think the collaborative apps, the products like Just Login come into picture, which allows people to actually collaborate across regions, right? So let's take, for example, so Venkat talked about how shift admins can actually get into a team meeting and then collaborate simultaneously on roster planning. So they need not be physically present in the same room. They can two of them can probably join like from hybrid work setting, one of them can from join from office, but still they can get the experience of working on a single canvas and still trying to plan the shift of their employees seamlessly, right? So I think these are the two aspects to hybrid work that I see, and I think I've tried to answer that question. I hope that kind of answers that the 2 points. Thank you.
Thanks for your sharing, Deep. So just to jump in, I guess is one of the key kind of concerns between both employers and employees is about what exactly is the reason why they should be coming to office, or why can't they be working fully remotely. I think it's about ensuring that when they are remote, they are able to conduct their work at the same productivity level or even higher when they are in office. Why is that so? They must be in office. There must be a compelling reason for it. So, whether it may be how your meetings are structured, whether it may be the culture, or what are you trying to engage with your employees in physical moments. I think it's important to establish I would say, the pros and cons of each working arrangement and trying to make the best of it so that your employees can understand as well. So we do have a question from Celeste as well. So Celeste is actually a current Just Login user. So it's more of a support issue. So previously there was live support, but it has been replaced by sending email. So just to check in with Venkat, what is the current arrangement with this?
I would like to know which region you're from, Celeste.
Yep, Celeste, if you are able to let us know, where are you from?
Yeah, Singapore. Okay, actually, we have multiple channels of engagement in Singapore. Right now, we do support WhatsApp, emails. We even have phone calls. So you could call us and you could get live support back. The thing is, we would give priority more for more urgent issues towards, the pay run period and things like that would take precedence over much smaller issues when you try the phone call. So I would suggest if there are simple issues, email would still be a good mode of communication where you can go through the entire history of everything, all the communications, all the solutions being suggested and so on. However, if you do have urgent issues, you can still call us and we will help you out there. Yeah.
Thanks, Venkat. So, like I mentioned, we do have various channels where you can reach us. So, our hotline is available, but I would say definitely there's a lot of queries coming in. So, best to leave those for more urgent matters or things that are unable to be explained very well via email. So, maybe just one last question from Shane as well. I think it's a clarification about MS Teams, about using it instead of using multiple browsers. I think that was one of the reasons why we have apps for Teams and trying to keep everyone within the Teams ecosystem as much as possible. Deep, do you want to respond to this?
Yes, thanks, Arshad. Yeah, Shane, you're exactly right. I think the idea is to, as Venkat mentioned, right? So we want a user to kind of focus on their core work and not lose the context in switching multiple windows. That's why we have the concept of collaborative apps on Microsoft Teams. If you're using Microsoft Teams today, I would request you to go to the App Store and you can discover, many apps that you may be already using today, and you can start using it inside the context of Teams. You can add it to your personal scope, or you can add it to a channel, you can add it to a chat, given the app also supports those capabilities. So different apps might be at a different stages of integration, but yeah, feel free to please explore that and explore apps on Microsoft Teams right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Deep. So I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for attending today's session. If you are interested to find out more about our integration between Microsoft Teams and Just Login, please feel free to visit our website or contact us if you are keen to move this forward. So just wanted to clarify that all existing Just Login users, you are eligible to use this functionality at absolutely no extra cost. You can just go into the apps section on your Microsoft Teams software to add in Just Login and sign in via your Just Login account. So thank you very much again and have a great afternoon, the rest of you. Bye.